find out. Okay, it's 6:30. Let's get started with our study session tonight. Mr. Crosby, I believe you're in charge.
All right, ma'am. Madam Mayor, and members of the council, this evening I have requested that Robbie Williams, our city engineer with Triad Design Group, come before us and try to explain the basin study that has been conducted with Oklahoma City and what the future impact that's going to have on our community. We have discussed this in the past and kind of covered it very quickly and just kind of brushed over it in discussing the expansion of our sewer treatment plant, what the growth to the west is going to mean to us, and also what the growth of Oklahoma City in that basin is going to mean. And it's something that's going to happen. So I've asked Robbie if he would come before us this evening and give a brief explanation and hopefully answer questions that people may have.
I've got some maps to help please follow along.
Thank you.
Thank you there, Gary.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else want that?
Judge Miller wanted one.
Okay, I'm briefly going to give you a general overview of the basin study we did. And so as we go along, if you have any questions, just feel free to stop me and ask. Basically, with I-40 Frisco Road interchange starting construction several years ago, the city of Oklahoma City and Yukon recognized the growth that would occur out there. And so the city of Oklahoma City put out to have a basin study done. And what we do is we look at their wastewater and water for the future. Well, they contacted the city of Yukon, Mr. Crosby, and since the beginning, they've included Yukon in this study because they recognize that the two cities will need to partner together. So before I get going, it may be helpful if I explain to you kind of what the basin is. And a basin is it's like a drainage basin. You look at the creeks, and it's all the water flows from the top of the hill down to the bottom of the hill. And I'll speak loud, but if you can't hear me, the red, what I've got shown here in red on your map, that is the 25 square mile drainage basin that we studied for the city of Oklahoma City. And it's basically from Highway 66 to Southwest 59th Street, and then Gregory Road to Frisco Road. And then, of course, the green is
It's on?
the green is the Yukon corporate limits. And then this other area right in here, the purple line that extends this area right here, that is the Yukon service area. That is what sanitary sewer we serve. And our wastewater treatment plant is right here. Everybody knows where our wastewater treatment plant is. So what we did as part of the study, within this drainage area, we looked at future population, zoning, because in order to plan out 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you have to know the population, which helps you predict flows, size of pipes, size of the wastewater plant. And so that's what we did for Oklahoma City. For Yukon, the second map, basically what we did is we know what our existing plant flows today, the flows in it. So what we did is we went and looked at all the undeveloped land within Yukon. And from that, we were able to calculate what the future Yukon flow would be. So based on us doing that, knowing what Yukon needed, and then back to Oklahoma City, we were able to generate flows on what size lines Oklahoma City would need and how a wastewater treatment plant would need to be built out over the years. So that's kind of a general.
I've got a question. Within inside this red is Oklahoma City.
That's correct.
All that's Oklahoma City.
That's right. Except for this
Right.
little portion right here, which is Yukon.
Yeah,
Just
the
south
green.
of I-40.
Yeah. Mm.
And this is a gravity line. South of I-40, we would need to build a lift station and pump the water to I-40. And then to the plant, and we have everything that we've planned all along to develop this area south of I-40. We already have the conduit underneath Interstate 40 to.
So is the water plant, the wastewater plant that's way off on our right, is that gonna be able to take care of everything on our left? Everything south?
Well, I'm gonna go through that here in a second, but what I wanted you to understand was kind of the big picture.
Yes.
We got this big area for Oklahoma City, we have Yukon, and then we have our wastewater treatment plant
Okay.
right now. So, to kind of run through the presentation, the first thing we did was we had to do a planning document. And so we being Triad hired Johnson and Associates, who is also the Yukon City Planners. And they came up with looking at the 25 square miles on what the future zoning would be. It was basically large tracts of residential property. And some commercial at the corners. And from that, they projected populations over 0 to 10 years, 10 to 20 years, 30 years, and beyond. And the way they did that was they looked at the school districts, the 2018 population, Oklahoma City and Yukon zoning, land use information from the Oklahoma City Comprehensive Plan and the Yukon Plan, and existing plats. And then from that, they were able to develop the growth patterns and population projections. And that's what we need as engineers. We need to know how many people, because once we know that, then we can assign a number to calculate how much water we're going to have to treat or put in pipes and things of that nature. So the second step we did for Oklahoma City was the collection system, which didn't affect Yukon, and it's within the big 25 square miles. We looked at how they would put in sanitary sewer lines. How big would they need to be? If they put one in now, say a 24-inch line, well, in 20 years, they may have to put another line in next to it. So we did all of those things, and that really didn't involve Yukon, because Yukon, we already have all of our sanitary sewer pipes that service our area. And then the third step we did is we looked at wastewater treatment. How are we going to treat Oklahoma City's basin and our basin? And keep in mind, Oklahoma City paid for all this. We did 30 days of testing at our wastewater treatment plant, and it was extensive testing. And we did that in order to find out what was in our wastewater, how we're treating it, and we being Triad, we hired AECom, they're a national firm. They did the modeling for us, so once they had all the data, they were able to set up a model of our existing plant, a computer model. And they were able to get baseline conditions to know the model was calibrated correctly. And then from there, they could take the future flows and say, hey, what if we do this, that, and that to the wastewater treatment plant? And that's what they did. So we studied 3 options. One was just Oklahoma City just build their own wastewater treatment plant. And then we studied another one that Oklahoma City and Yukon construct a new wastewater treatment plant together. And I'll come back over here. So when you start looking at new wastewater treatment plants, you have to look north of Main Street or Highway 66. And when you start looking between there and Wagner Road, you have rivers and floodplains and not a very good place to build wastewater treatment plants. So those options were pretty much eliminated. And cost. They were more expensive. So the recommended
President Trump seeking to attack.
So the recommended solution to the wastewater treatment was for Yukon and Oklahoma City to joint venture together where our wastewater treatment plant's located right now. So that's what the study recommended.
Could you say that one more time, please? Where is the recommendation now?
The recommendation is for the wastewater treatment plant to be where our existing wastewater treatment
So
plant.
you want to like double its size?
Right,
And modernize it.
and modernize it and all that. One thing we learned from the study, our outlet pipe to the river, it's low, so when the river gets up, it kind of restricts the flow from our wastewater treatment plant. So in the future, they would raise you've been out there, they would raise our structures up so that when we constructed a new outlet pipe at the river, it would be a lot higher and not impact the flow through a wastewater treatment plant. So like I told you, the recommendation on the wastewater treatment plants, we looked at discharge limits that the state of Oklahoma will require, modifications to existing treatment processes, cost efficiency, operational simplicity, and reliability. And so the report concluded what I believe was common sense, that knowing there's not a good place to build new wastewater plants, the Yukon site would need to be expanded.
Do we have any kind of estimate on cost?
I'll get there.
Oh, sorry. Save it till last.
So basically what the plan also recommended, between now and, right now our plan is rated for 3 million gallons a day. And our plant runs very efficiently. We run about 2.3 million gallons a day, so we have some capacity left in our plant. But as we look over the next 5 years and what's going to occur, it's recommended that Yukon go ahead and expand the plant from 3 million gallons to 5 million gallons. And that's without Oklahoma City. Like I told you, we did our own study for just Yukon, and for Yukon to build out Yukon, we need a plant somewhere around 4 to 5 million gallons a day. And so in 5 years, if we had a 5 million gallon a day plant, as Oklahoma City develops a little bit, we have an interim solution to how they can convey water to our treatment plant. But then there comes a point our treatment plant can't handle anymore, and then both cities need to do a joint venture to start making the plant larger. So I'm not going to get in really to the interim solution. It mainly deals with, if you look at, what did I do with it? If you look at the second map, this was a couple of years ago when we did this. Okay. This right here is Frisco Road. Here's where the new interchange is going to be. So everything west of Frisco Road is Oklahoma City except for where our park is. And there were some tracts of land in Oklahoma City that we looked at that could be developed relatively easy. And so we came up with solutions to build a couple of lift stations and some sewer lines to get over to our sewer line, which none of these costs would be Yukon. These would all be private development or Oklahoma City. But so we've kind of come up with an interim solution to convey some of this water to the plant. But at the same time, we need to keep an eye on our plant, what the flow is, because as these areas develop, and if we allow some from Oklahoma City, there comes a point our plant can't handle anymore. So we need to pay attention to that as we go on from here. As far as the costs that are in the report for a wastewater treatment plant, and keep in mind that this is a brand new plant. This is, like I told you, there's a few things we can do to get our plant from 3 million gallons a day to 5 million gallons a day for probably about $4 million. These numbers I'm going to tell you, these are like building a brand new plant. They have contractor overhead and profit, engineering, very conservative numbers. But to build a brand new 10 million gallon a day plant generally is about $65 million. And then as you add additional flow over the years, the cost is a little bit less. So that kind of gives you an idea of the numbers that we're talking about. So does anybody have any questions?
I do on, so are we talking about an expansion with new equipment and a upgrade of the old equipment? Are we talking about rebuilding the whole thing that's currently there? Will anything that's there now be left or up? That, I guess that's kind of.
Okay, what I told you needed to be done in the next 5 years to get it from 3 million gallons a day to 5 million gallons a day, that is using what we have there today. Doing a few modifications. We've looked at our discharge permit and what we're actually discharging, and we believe there's some room there to work with the state DEQ on our discharge permit. So the $4 million I told you to get us from 3 million gallons a day to 5 million gallons a day, That's with the facilities we have right now. The number that I just told you to build a, then there comes a point, we can't do anything more with our plan. It just doesn't make sense for the future. Then we would go in and start building brand-new structures and basically rebuilding the plant. And that's when, that would require Oklahoma City and Yukon to joint venture. Because in the long run, over 50, to give you an idea, over 50 years, we need the complete build-out, 50-year build-out. The plant would need to handle about 25 million gallons a day. And of that 25 million, 5 million would be Yukon. So that gives you an idea on the proportion of what the dollars would need to be in the future.
Since they own all that land, can't we put it out there just north of I-40? I mean, why do we want to put it back in the Yukon? For them to help pay for it?
There's no area north of
It has to be north of.
Main Street
Main
because of the floodplains and the creeks and the property owners.
He's asking, why can we not do it on Oklahoma City land south of I-4?
'Cause
Is that what you're
It's in
asking?
the basin, but
Okay.
that would be in the basin.
Because-
no.
Okay.
The main stream of this creek, which the sanitary sewer pipe has to follow, it runs through the park property that we have that
Yeah.
we, that we purchased and we annexed from Oklahoma City.
So the time frame, we would have to be a little bit proactive in looking to the future, so what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Well, Mr. Crosby's already had us looking at expanding as I mentioned, the plant from 3 million gallons to 5 million gallons. We have and we're in the process of beginning that. By the time we do all the reports required from DEQ to expand it and do all that, it would take a couple of years of just some engineering and some data and reports written to them for them to say, yeah, you can do this and increase your discharge to the river. And then after 2 years or so, then it takes us, about a year to get the plans ready. And then that gives us about a year and a half to construct it, and then 5 years where we've got what we need.
So moving forward, after that point, as you need to upgrade the, eventually, I think you say 25 million a day?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to have all the things you just described that would take 3 to 4 years from now? Is it possible to put that into that 50-year plan so that the next time we don't have to wait another 4 or 5 years to get the same progress made? As my question, I'm not sure if my question's making sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Can all those studies be pre-done to where if next year we need to upgrade to 10 million, we can do that?
Oh, you mean with DEQ and all that?
Right.
We could look into that, but I don't think we could because it requires, it's a permit application to increase your discharge. So you can't go in there and say, I'm going to do it to 5 million. But, oh yeah, I want you to go ahead and look at these for the next.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, it seems like, and this isn't, I don't mean to sound negative, it seems like we're catching up a lot. But some of that, I guess, just has to do with the bureaucracy of some of the large organizations that we don't have
Right.
any.
I mean, our plant runs great. I mean, we don't have any trouble with our wastewater plant. We still have capacity for us and for others, if that's what you choose. But you need to recognize this is a planning document. We're predicting the future on what we believe the zoning and the population and the flows will be over a certain amount of time. But it's a good tool for us to use to see where we're going.
We can't wait until we need 5 million and then expect it within 6 months.
Right.
We have to realize that we have to look out ahead.
But we wouldn't anticipate Yukon service area requiring more than 5 million a day.
That's right.
And so that remainder of that, so the other 20, would that 65 million expenditure be divided by that proportion?
Yes,
Okay.
you could kind of do it like that. And you need to keep in mind, for Yukon, the large area that's floodplain along, from Wagner to Wilshire, from Sarah Road to through town, we did not include that area being developed in the next 40 to 50 years. The cost to bring in fill material, and we don't have sewer on the north side of the river, and, so for you, we looked realistically for what Yukon would need.
Does anyone else have any more questions? All right. Thank you. Mr. Crosby, do we have anything else in our study session?
That's all this evening, Madam Mayor, and we will have a few-minute break and
Okay,
start
meet
the
back
meeting.
at 7 o'clock.